By the end of this video, you will know how to build a full suspension mountain bike for relatively cheap. If you are like me, you have wanted to get a nice mountain bike, but just don't have the money. It's a really expensive sport, especially when you start getting harder trails. You might even need a better bike for those trails so that you don't die and break your collarbone or something. This is a very common problem among mountain bikers because a nice mountain bike can cost a lot. We're talking like usually upwards of $3,000 and up for a decent full suspension. To make this simple, I will show you step by step how I built my first nice bike for relatively cheap. My goal is to plan out a full suspension mountain bike with at least mid-range suspension. We're talking upper RockShox, maybe even some Fox, especially rear suspension. A 1x12 drivetrain, probably Shimano Dior since it's a great budget option, and hydraulic disc brakes, all for under $1,600. That's my goal. If you know a lot about mountain biking, that is a very small amount. I think we can do it. Here's roughly how I will split up the budget. I want to leave $400 for the frame, $400 for front and rear suspension, $120 for the drivetrain, $50 for cranks, $200 for wheels, $100 for tires, $100 for the entire cockpit and the seat, and $100 for the brakes and brake rotors, and $130 for miscellaneous things such as a headset, a bottom bracket, bearings, or bolts. Let's start with the frame and suspension. In total, we have an $800 budget between the frame and the suspension. If I were to do this myself on such a tight budget, I'm definitely going used since it offers great quality and variety for the price. As long as you're careful, you have to be very careful with used because people can scam you or lie to you in many ways. And again, some frames will come with rear suspension, so for some people, they might not even have to worry about that. So I will show you some examples of forks, frames, and rear suspension for a great price. Now, you won't always be able to get this good of a deal, but if you wait long enough, you are almost guaranteed to get a great deal on these things. It took me multiple months in order to find good parts like these. Now with a drivetrain, you do not usually want to buy used, since a drivetrain is a consumable part and it wears out very fast. So if you buy used, it will most likely already be used. Now the one exception to that on a drivetrain is the cranks, since cranks can be really expensive and they don't wear out as fast as a chain per se, so I also would buy used for the cranks. If you have a slightly higher budget, like maybe $100, $200 more, then I would recommend buying all the drivetrain new, every single part. But on this budget, $1,600 or under, I recommend you buy your cranks used. For the actual drivetrain though, such as the cassette, the rear mech, and the shifter, and the chain, on eBay, if you get it from China, which is longer shipping, you can get a great deal on the drivetrain. As for wheels, I recommend you get WTB wheel sets, since you can get new, fully built wheels ready to be put on and ridden, besides tires, for just above $100 each. Now with the tires, it's a little bit of a different story because you can't buy used, which means you have to buy new. And you definitely don't want to cheap out on tires, since that can be the difference between you having a fun time on the trails and you being in the hospital with an $8,000 injury. You should research good budget tires, such as Specialized Purgatories, which often go on sale for an amazing price, or Schwalbe Knobby Nicks. Sorry if I said that wrong. Also for tires, you should find the best deal by waiting and looking through sales on places like Amazon, eBay, the Pros Closet, or even like Jensen USA. They sometimes have great sales. For the handlebars and the seat, you should definitely buy used and get a great price. For the stem and grips, you should get new, since a new stem is only like $20, so you're not saving much. And grips wear out, so you definitely don't want to buy used, and they're also pretty cheap. The nice thing about grips is really good quality grips, such as P&W grips, are only $20 per se. I think they're actually like 22, but close enough. Good budget brakes like Shimano MT200s or Shimano MT201s should be great for a budget build. They're only 2-piston, but on this budget you're not going to get 4-piston. A good way that you can increase the power is getting bigger rotors. We'll come back to that later. Not to mention that on eBay you can get a pair of those brakes for just over $50. As for rotors, I recommend the SRAM 180mm rotors and adapters too. This gives you way more braking power on a budget without having to get better brakes. The final things are all the stuff that hold your bike together. This includes bottom brackets, headsets, adapters, and tools. All this can be found quite cheap on eBay and Amazon on a budget. If you have a little bit more of a spending limit, I would not skimp out on bottom brackets and headsets. Cheap bearing parts like that will wear out very quickly and have to replace, not to mention that it could be a safety issue even. With all this talked over, I hope you are able to build a great mountain bike on a budget to tackle all the trails you want. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any ideas for videos or how I could make them better, tell me in the comments. I hope you enjoyed and come back for more. See you next time.